Alright, first thing you do when you come in the truck, guys, you got to do a 3-point contact. 2 hands and 1 feet, or 2 feet and 1 hands at all times, or you could be failed on test day. It's part of the requirement. I have air pressure. My primary and secondary is between 100 and 125 psi. If I fail this, it's an automatic fail. I have to come back in 5 days to retest. Alright, once I'm in the seat, first thing I'm going to do, put my seat belt on. Make sure it's firmly latched, it's not frayed or worn. Next thing I'm going to do is a safe start. Push my clutch to the floor, make sure my gear shift is in neutral. Turn the key on. Checking my ABS light for a bulb check. It's on. And back off. My def light was on green. It went to red. Once it goes back to green, I have at least half a tank of def in there. Now I can safely start the truck. Ease off the clutch. Now first thing I'm going to do my tug test, or parking brake test. Air pressure in primary and secondary have to be between 100 and 125 psi. And they are there. Put in low gear. Check my tractor one first because it's pulled out. Ease off the clutch. Make sure the tractor holds me. Push the clutch right back in. Keep it in gear. Reverse the process. Pull the red out. Push the yellow in. Now I'm checking the trailer emergency brakes or parking brakes. Now I'm going to push them both in. Keep it in gear. I'm going to do my service brake test. Book says you roll forward approximately 5 miles an hour. Press on the brake. It should stop you if it pulls one side or the other. That could indicate a problem. Just going to ease the clutch out. Move a little bit forward. Just push the clutch in and gently push on the brake. Told them what they wanted to hear. Now once that's in place, I stop, take my foot off the brake, put the stick in neutral, ease the clutch out. Now I'm setting myself up to do the air leakage rate properly. Both of these have to be pushed in to be a valid test. They're released or I couldn't have done the service brake check. They're in. I'm going to turn the engine off. Keep my hand on the key. Once the engine dies, I turn the key back to the right. Now if I forgot to talk about my def or my ABS bulb check, I can talk about it now. Once it all resets, I'm going to do my air leakage rate. There's 3 of them. Number 1 is I have to press and hold the service brake pedal for 1 minute, and I shouldn't lose any more than 4 psi drop in that minute on a combination vehicle. And I have to count out loud. Press and hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now at this point they might tell you you're done, you're okay, you're good. If that's the case, get off the brake pedal. If they tell you nothing, you need to count all the way to 60. Once you're there, number 2 out of 3, I'm going to fan the brake pedal. Before the air pressure falls to 60 psi, I should have a warning light and a buzzer come on. That's why the key electricity has to be on. Watching my air gauges. Got to brake air and we hear the buzzer, so that part is correct. Number 3, I'm going to continue to fan the brake pedal when the air pressure gets between 20 and 45 psi, my parking brake should engage or come on. In other words, those 2 buttons are going to pop out. I'm not going to watch my gauges, I'm going to watch these. They both have to come out before my test is complete. The harder and faster I pump it, the quicker the air is expelled, the quicker these will set up because there's no air to hold them. Now if I looked right, only the red came out, the yellow did not come out, so I have to keep fanning the brake pedal. Doesn't matter what the gauge says, I told them what they want to hear. Now, it's been released there. Now I've safely passed the air leakage rate test. Now at this point, I'm going to turn the engine off and I'm going to do a safe start because that's what's required. I'm going to push the clutch in. I've already done it, but I'm going to do it again. Make sure the stick's in neutral, turn the key on. Again, I can talk about the ABS light if I forgot it, or the def again. Once it cycles over and it turns green again on the def, that's my cue to start it up. Now I start telling them about my gauges because I've already did the air leakage. My voltmeter oil pressure should go immediately to normal operating range. They're all different, that's why I tell them that. Water temperature should begin a gradual rise to normal operating temperature. Should be charged between 12 and 14 volts. It's 14.1, 14.2. I've already talked about my air pressure gauges, so I'm safe there. Outside mirrors, they're not cracked, broken, not excessively dirty. They are adjusted for me. Even if they're not, that's what I tell them. Tell them what they need to hear, what they want to hear. Windshield is intact, not excessively dirty. There's no illegal stickers on there, not cracked. Well, there might be a little rock chip over there. Otherwise intact. My windshield wiper blades are there, flat against the glass. I have to see if they operate. The turn signal handle right here, you have to turn it, grab it and turn it, twist it towards the front of the truck. That's how my wipers come on. I need to know if I have washing fluid. I push and hold it in, the turn signal handle, and I do have washing fluid. I turn them off. As long as I'm here, I'm going to do my turn signals. Right turn signal is working in the cab, should be front, side, back of the truck. Left turn signal is working the cab, should be front, side, back of the truck. Four-way, just like in your car, it has a button, push them on. They're working on the dash, should be front, sides, and back of the truck. Now, I'm going to check my headlights, which is down over here where my left hand is. Just a dial like your car, turn it to the headlight. I wonder if you have brights, you have to push the turn signal handle down. You see my indicator came on the dash. Now that has to stay on, and your four-way is on when you go out of the truck to complete your pre-trip outside the truck. I'm going to come over and check my heater defroster. Heater's on the floor. Turn the fan on. Even if I don't feel it, I put my hand there. I go, my heater's working. I'm going to put it on my defroster, put my hand there and go, my defroster is working. I'm going to check my horns. Got to have at least one. Got my city or electric horn, air horn, so my horns work. All right. Next thing I'm going to do, I've checked everything out. Oh, my emergency equipment. I need 3 reflective triangles mounted securely somewhere in the tractor. I need an extra fuse of circuits, whatever the truck takes. And I need a fully charged fire extinguisher mounted securely somewhere in the power unit. Okay, I'm going to turn the engine off. Now, in order for the bright light to stay on, I have to turn the key to the left. Now, I'm set to get out of the truck because main cab part of the pre-trip is complete. I'm going to step outside and start in the front of the truck. Now, once you complete your in-cab check, you come to the front of the vehicle. There's not very much here. I start from the top and work my way down. Clearance lights over the windshield. Cover's not cracked, broke, or missing. Amber in color. They are on. Now, it says mirror. It doesn't say fender mirror, but I cover it just to cover myself. It is securely mounted, not cracked or broke, not excessively dirty. It is adjusted for me. That's why your headlights are on the cab. Headlights are on, bright and dim. The cover's not cracked or broken. The moisture in there. My turn signal is working properly. It's not cracked or broke. Amber bulb, and the reflector here or bulb here is amber in color, not cracked or broke. I'm going to take a step back and look under the truck, looking for puddles of fuel, coolant, or oil, which would indicate a leak. Now, at this point, I'm going to lift up the hood and start in the engine compartment. We always start on the right side or the passenger side of the engine compartment. And there's only 2 things on this side that we need to know about, only 2. Got the exhaust, and we have the alternator, and the alternator's right here. Now, the alternator is securely mounted, not cracked or broke. The hot and negative attached to it, tied and secure. There's no bare frayed wires, and they want to know how it's operated. Is it gear or is it belt driven? Well, it's belt driven, so I tell them it's belt driven, and I'm going to check the belt, make sure there's no excessive play in it, no dry rot, no cuts upon it, not frayed. Next, my exhaust starts behind the heat shield here. It's all securely fastened together here. If there were any holes or loose connections, there would be soot coming out of the exhaust, and it's mounted securely all the way to the cab. It just dumps in the back of the cab. There's no longer any stacks on the back of them on these company trucks. They're all underneath the truck. Now, we're going to go to the driver's side or left side of the engine compartment. This is the busy side of the engine compartment. A lot of stuff happening on over here. All right, first thing I would do, you don't have to do it, but I tell them, here's my oil dipstick. If I was to pull that out and I was on the add marker below it, I would add 1 gallon of oil in the filler tube, which is right here. They're both securely mounted. From there, I got my coolant reservoir. It's between the cold and the hot max line. If it was below the cold mid line, I would add my coolant right here. It's securely mounted, not leaking any coolant. My hose is coming out of it, and my lower and upper radiator hoses, they're not leaking any coolant. The clamps are tight and secure, no dry rot, no frays on them, no cuts on them. When you come from here, this goes to my water pump. All this is my water pump here. It's not cracked or broke, securely mounted. Again, how is it operated? Well, this is a belt-driven water pump. There's your belt on the pulley. Again, no excessive play, no dry rot, no cuts. It is not frayed. At that point, I go to my power steering reservoir. It's hard to tell, but I believe, yes, it's almost to the max hot right there. If it was below it, I would add my fluid right here, securely mounted, really not leaking any fluid. That's just normal little bit of fluid on there that comes. It's not leaking anything. The hose is coming to the gearbox, from the gearbox to the pump and back again. No dry rot, no cuts, clamps tight and secure. And if you follow this, this goes to my power steering pump. I can't see it. If I get way up in there, maybe. There it is. It's securely mounted, not leaking fluid, and it is gear driven. And right behind that power steering pump is my air compressor right here. It is mounted securely, bolts and nuts tight and secure. It's not cracked or broke. It is gear driven. They need to know those things. Now that I've completed that, I'm going to start with my steering linkage. I start with my steering column. It's not cracked or broke. Securely fastened to both U-joint here. Comes into my steering gearbox here, which is not cracked or broke. Securely mounted to the frame of the truck. All the bolts and nuts are tight and secured. It's not leaking fluid. Now I said frame of the truck, so I'm going to name the frame now. You can name it wherever you want. Frame of the truck is not cracked or broke, not twisted, no illegal holes drilled in it, not illegally welded together anywhere. Now back on my steering linkage, this is my pitman arm, which comes off of the gearbox. It's not cracked or broke. Attached to my drag link, which is not cracked or broke, which is attached to my steering knuckle here, which is not cracked or broke. They are all held together with bolts, nuts, castle nut, and cotter keys. Then I have my tie rod right here, which is not cracked or broke. Goes from steer to steer tire. Bolts and nuts tight and secure. The bushings are not worn out. Now I'm going to start my axle. You do the steer, one drive, one trailer axle. Only 3 axles total. I do them pretty much the same every time. I start with suspension on every axle, and I'm no different here. We're going to start with my shock. Securely mounted top and bottom. Bolts and nuts are tight and secure. If it was leaking fluid between the top and bottom of the shock, that would indicate a bad shock. My leaf springs are here. They're not cracked or broke. They're not shifted. They're securely mounted to the spring hanger spring mount front and rear. They're not cracked or broke. They're securely mounted to the frame of the truck. Bolts and nuts are tight and secure. The U-bolts holding the springs to the axle, they are not cracked or broke. The nuts underneath are holding them tight and secure. Suspension is done. Now I'm going to start my braking system. Air line coming out. If I had air supplied, make sure no air is leaking out, no dry rot, no cuts upon the hose. Comes in my brake chamber. It's not cracked or broke. This band holding it together is tight and secure. It is securely mounted, and what comes out of that is my push rod, which is a single rod which turns into this fork. It's not cracked or broke. Securely fastened to my slack adjuster right here, which is not cracked or broke, held together with a pin and a cotter key. If I had air supply to the system, it should not move more than 1 inch, pulling it by hand. If it moves more than 1 inch, that tells DOT that your brakes are out of adjustment. From there, I go to my brake pads. You can brake pads, brake lining, whatever you want to call them. They are not worn dangerously thin, not cracked or broke, no oil or grease on them. The brake drum right here is not cracked or broke, not misshapen, no oil or grease on it. Now the inner axle seal, I can't see it because it's in the middle of the axle, but if it was leaking fluid, I would see that, and that would indicate a bad inner axle seal. So there would be oil in my brakes, wheel, tire, and on the ground if it was leaking, but they're not. Now at this point, I'm going to do my inner and outer wheels, not cracked or broke, not illegally welded together. I'm going to do my tire. I got 3 things: inflation, condition, depth. Inflation, I just tell them 105, check it with the tire gauge. Condition of the sidewalls and the tread, no cuts, bubbles, no foreign objects within the tire. Tread depth, at least 4 30-second tread depth. It can be more, but the least amount is 4 30-second tread depth in every major groove. Virgin rubber, no recaps. Come out to my lug nuts. These are just a pretty cover over them, but if they're on there, your lug nuts are there. Just tell them my lug nuts are all there and accounted for. No shiny threads, no rust trails upon the wheel. I can't see my outer hub seal because it's little caps on there, but if it was, again, if it was leaking, there'd be oil on my wheel, tire, and on the ground. Turn signal light, you can see its cover is not cracked, broke, or missing, amber in color. It is functioning properly. My mirror, I talked about it in the cab, but it is securely mounted, again, not cracked or broke, not excessively dirty. My door is shut. See if it opens properly. I can't see much of the hinges till I open it up. All right, hinges are not, the door didn't fall down, so they're tight the way they're supposed to be. I have a weather seal intact all the way around the door and even around the door frame. See if it shuts properly and latches. Yes, it does. Now here, I have my def tank. Got to check it out here. If I should have a good seal, should have a gasket on that cap to keep that def from leaking out. That's where you put your def in when you put it in there. These are my steps. They're securely mounted. They're not cracked, broke. They'll support my weight. Fuel tank is here. Should have a nice gasket around that cap to keep the fuel from leaking out. There's at least 2 straps on the tank to the frame of the truck. Bolts and nuts tight and secure. And again, there's no puddles or fuel down there that would indicate a leak. Now, I'm going to check my electrical and air lines back here. You have to do from the tractor and on the trailer. This has a factory connection on the back of the cab here. It's not plugged in, so I have to worry about that. But again, there's no bare frayed wires. It's not folded in half or the wires broke. It's not dragging the catwalk. It comes up here to my trailer, securely plugged in there. Each one has the plug and the cap have a lip to keep them from wiggling out, so it makes a nice sure connection so all my lights work properly. My air lines securely mounted to the back of the cab. If I had air supply, make sure no air is leaking out. Again, they're not dragging the catwalk. They're not folding in half to impede my airflow. Make sure the connections, the glad hands are tight and secure here. If I was to take them off and look at the rubber drum, if it was dry rotted or pieces missing, I would change those out. The front of my trailer header board, not miss any rivets. All the panels securely mounted together. No holes in there. That's about all I can tell you about it. Catwalk securely mounted to the frame of the truck. Not twisted. It looks like it'll support my weight. Drive shaft or drive lines down here. It's not twisted, not broke, not illegally welded together. Securely mounted to the U-joint front and rear. I have more steps. I named steps, but I'm going to name them again. Steps are here. They're securely mounted to the frame of the truck. Bolts and nuts tight and secure. Looks like to support my weight. They're not broke or cracked. Now, I've got to do one axle here, but I'm going to do my fifth wheel first. I just like to get that out of the way. First thing, I make sure there's not a gap between the bottom of the trailer and the platform here. There should be sufficient grease so there's no friction in there. None of them are cracked or broke. The release handle is here. It doesn't have a locking mechanism per se. It doesn't have a lock to keep it from coming out, but it's pushed all the way in, so it should be locked. The only other way I would know is to go up between the landing gear and look up in there and make sure the locking jaws are locked securely around the shank of the kingpin, and none of them are cracked or broke. Now, this is the platform here. It's not cracked or broke, and this all the platform is securely mounted to the frame of the truck. All the bolts and nuts tight and secure. This is a sliding fifth wheel. See the pins here in the holes. If I was to unlock it in the cab, make sure no air leaks through the airline, these would disengage, and I could slide my fifth wheel along the platform to distribute my weight to be legal to go down the highway. Now, I'm going to start my my drive tires. I'm going to start with my suspension first. Now, there's 2 extra things on here that weren't on the drive. I've got an airbag, and I've got a torsion bar. I always start with the torsion bar because usually it's hard to see. It's kind of hiding. That's it right there. Torsion bar, torque bar, securely fastened to the axle here, bolts and nuts tight and secure. The frame on this side, bolts and nuts tight and secure, bushes not worn out. The axle behind it is just the opposite. It's the axle here, frame over there. To me, that creates a stabilizer bar or a sway bar. That's what I call it. You can call it a dog bone, you get the point. Come over here and I go to my airbag because that's wasn't on the steer. If it was fully inflated, make sure no air is leaking out, no dry rot, no cuts upon the bag. They want to know how it's attached. The top of it is attached to the bottom of the frame, bolts and nuts tight and secure. The bottom of it sits on the control arm or spring, tight and secure. Now I'm going to come here, same thing I did on my steer. Shock is right here. Securely fastened top and bottom, bolts and nuts tight and secure. If there was a fluid between the top and bottom of the shock, that would indicate a bad shock. I got my leaf spring, which technically is called a control arm, but you can call it a leaf spring and you'll get the point. Not cracked or broke. Securely mounted to the spring hanger spring mount right here in the front, which is not cracked or broke. Securely mounted to the frame of the truck. Bolts and nuts are tight and secure. U-bolts are right here again, not cracked or broke, holding the axle to the control arm or spring. Nuts underneath are tight and secure. At this point, I'm going to do my airlines again. Airlines coming here. If I had air supply to the system, make sure no air is leaking out, no dry rot or cuts upon the hose. Comes in my brake chamber. It's not cracked or broke. The band holding it together is tight and secure. You can see the bolt and nut down there. And it is securely mounted. And what comes out of there is my push rod. We can't see it because of the guard here. The push rod comes out. It's got that single with the fork on it. It attaches to the slack adjuster, which is right here, with a pin and a cotter key. If I had air supply to the system, it should not move more than 1 inch pointed by hand. You want in here? Can't see the brakes, I got the cover over it. Can't see the brake pads really, but they're in there. Brake pads are not worn dangerously thin, not cracked or broke, no oil or grease on them. The brake drum is right here, not cracked or broke, not misshapen, no oil or grease on it. Interaxle seal, if it was leaking, there'd be oil on my brakes, wheel, tire, and on the ground. Now I've got a little thing different here. I got dual tires here. So they want to know if these are bud spacing wheels or do I have spacers between the wheels. We do not have spacers between any wheels on the tractor or the trailers. That wheel up on the steer, it's got an angle built in. That's a bud spacing wheel. This is the same thing here. What it does is it keeps the tires from rubbing, keeps them separate but together. You tell them these are bud spacing wheels, angles built in, there's no debris between the tires. And I'm done with that. Now I'm right back on track. All my wheels, inner and outer, the wheels are the rim, whatever you want to call them, not cracked or broke, not illegally welded together anywhere. Tire inflation, 105 each one. Check it with a tire gauge. Condition of all the sidewalls and the tread, no cuts, bubbles, no foreign objects within the tire. Tire tread depth, at least 2/32 tread depth. They can be recaps, but I do not want mismatched tires. I don't want radial and bias in there. I want even wear on all the tires here, even on my steer, even wear. And I have my lug nuts back here. They're all accounted for, tight and secure, no shiny threads, no rust trails upon the wheel. Outer hub seal that's in there, I can't see it, but if it was leaking, there'd be oil in my wheel, tire, and on the ground. At that point, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to get my splash guard or mud flaps back here. They're not dragging the ground, they're not cracked or broke. They're securely fastened to the hanger here. Bolts and nuts are tight and secure. Well, they don't have one there, but it's not going to impede anything. I have DOT reflective tape here. It's all intact on both of my mud flaps atop of them. My tail lights, turn signal lights, four ways, brake lights, cover's not cracked, broke, or missing, red in color. Backup light, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, clear or white in color. Turn signal light, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, white or clear in color. Come over here to the side of my trailer. Ooh, I know what I forgot. I better look on the top of the nose of that trailer. I was underneath there. I have a clearance light on the top front. Cover not cracked, broke, or missing, amber in color. I better do the same on the side over here. Nope, no light up there, so I'm clear there. Side of the trailer, no holes in it. The panels are all together with all the rivets. And if you want to just pass the test, tell them there's 3,296 rivets in a 48-foot trailer, and they'll probably just pass you, just like that. But don't take my word for it. All right. DOT reflective tape is mostly intact all the way down the trailer. Oh gosh, it's pretty much intact. That's nice. Frame a little bent here, but it's not going to hurt anything. Kind of my landing gear here. It's all held together. Bolts and nuts are tight and secure. The pads are on the bottom, so when you drop the trailer, it doesn't sink that quick into the ground. It doesn't have a release handle here, so it should be on the other side. And to be able to go down the highway, it should be in the cradle, I call it, so it doesn't flop around and hit passing vehicles. It raises and lowers the landing gear. Got two speeds, high and low, fast and slow. This is securely mounted to the cross members under the trailer. They are all there and accounted for. They're securely mounted to the frame of the trailer, which is not bent, twisted, not illegally welded together anywhere. Got a reflector here, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, amber in color. Running light, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, amber in color. Turn signal light, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, amber in color. Continue to come down here almost to the end. And you get down here, we're going to do suspension. Oh wow, they put a pin in there, nice. We don't have any trailers that have air ride that you're going to test on. We have one, but you will not test it. So the only thing different on here, there's no shock, there's no airbag, but there's a torsion bar right here. That's the only difference. So I'm going to start there. My torsion bar right here, securely mounted front and back, bolts and nuts tight and secure. It's not cracked or broke. Leaf springs are right here above it. Not cracked or broke, not shifted. They are securely mounted to the spring hanger or spring mount front and rear. They are not cracked or broke. They are factory welded to the tandem frame, which is not cracked or broke. Not illegally welded together. The sliding tandem is here. Yep. Usually the release handle's here. This is the only trailer where the release handle is right here between the tandems. If you want to slide that out, you got to pull that out. Of course, that pin has to be out. It would disengage your pins, and then you could slide your trailer over your tandems to distribute weight to be legal to go down the highway. Continue with the brakes back here. We can see a little bit better. Airline's coming in. If I had air supply, make sure no air leaks, no dry rot, no cuts upon the hose. This is just paint that's peeling there. Because of my brake chamber, which is not cracked or broke, the band holding it together is tight and secure. It is securely mounted. What comes out of here is my push rod, which is not cracked or broke, securely fastened to my slack adjuster here, which is not cracked or broke with a pin and a cotter key. If I had air supply system, it should not move more than 1 inch pulling it by hand. Brake pads here, not worn dangerously thin, not cracked or broke, no oil or grease on them. Brake drum is not cracked or broke, not misshapen, no oil or grease on it. Inner axle seal is not leaking. If it was, there'd be oil in my brake, wheel, tire, and on the ground. That is just a little bend to it right there, but that's not going to hurt anything. And we're right back to the same song and dance. It's just repetition, guys, over and over again. I've got dual tires. That means I look in there and I got those rims, bud spacing rims that have the angle built in, so I know they're bud spacing wheels. They're not a spacer, and there's no debris between the tires. Now all the inner and outer wheels not cracked, broke, not illegally welded together. Tire inflation on both of them, 105. Check with the tire gauge. Condition of all the sidewalls and the tread. No cuts, bubbles, no foreign objects within the tire. Tire tread depths, at least 2 30-second tread depth. They can be recaps, but I don't want radial or biased tires, and I want even wear across them all. Lug nuts are all here and accounted for. No shiny threads, no rust trails upon the wheel. Outer hub seal is not leaking. If it was, there'd be oil in my wheel, tire, and on the ground. I've got a clearance running light back here, covering that cracked, broke, or missing, red in color. My mud flapper splash guard, not dragging the ground, not cracked or broke. Fastened to the hanger, all the bolts and nuts are tight and secure. Now I need a hook or a chain or something here on the side of the trailer that is going to correspond with the chain or hook on the back of the door, so when I back up to a dock, I latch my door to the side, otherwise it's going to flop around. I don't have a chain here, I got a hook, but not one there. Now the door, it's bent. Looks like the weather seal's gone, but the hinges are all there. Bolts and nuts are all accounted for, securely locked, bottom and top. Now there's no lights over the top, so I got lights here. My running lights here, cover's not cracked, broke, or missing, red in color. My turn signal, 4-way, brake lights, tail lights, cover's not cracked, broke, or missing, red in color. I got a reflector here, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, red in color. I got a license plate light, cover not cracked, broke, or missing, clear or white in color. My DOT reflective tape is all intact back here. It looks like they just put that on. A little piece missing there, but there's enough on there to see what we need. And I believe my pre-trip inspection is now complete.